Hello and welcome back once again to After the Credits. So I apologize first of all if the audio on the Spider-Man review was kind of bad. I didn't realize till the very end of that recording session that somehow my microphone had switched back to the camera microphone versus the studio microphone that I've been using. So hopefully I'm able to clean it up to where it doesn't sound too bad, but if there's a lot of popping or whatever going on in it, I do apologize. But I do these off the cuff rather than scripted, so for me to go back and try and re-record that whole thing using the proper mic just wouldn't have worked out the same, so I'm just going to put it out there as it is. But that was the previous review, this is this review, and today we're talking about Wish Upon. So Wish Upon is the story of a young girl who finds this magic box in the trash, and it says it'll grant her 7 wishes. But the thing is, every time she makes a wish, it results in a blood sacrifice, which means someone she knows is going to die. And that is basically the overall premise of the movie, is her kind of getting obsessed with these wishes because she starts to get things that she wants, but at the same time realizes that it's costing people their lives, and her kind of becoming addicted to it and not wanting to give it up even though she knows that she should. And honestly, again, apparently Spider-Man is going to be the best movie of this month and going forward, because every movie I've seen, with the exception of Spider-Man, has just been kind of uneventful and pointless. And Wish Upon falls into that category as well. And in fact, even Spider-Man was kind of the lesser of the Marvel films. And even though I liked it, I still could look at it as being kind of uneventful and pointless, except things actually happen in there that further the story. Where in this, it's just same old repetitive crap we've seen a lot of other times, and just a film that didn't really need to be made other than let's try and cash in on the horror genre. So our movie starts off with this young girl who ends up witnessing her mother's suicide, and then she wakes up and she's like 10 years older, and ever since her mother's suicide, her dad's kind of been a downward slope where he's gotten into this junk collecting mentality where he goes around, like, actually jumps into dumpsters and digs out things that he could find use for or sell or, take to the swap meet or whatever. And he does it at places where things like that are actually thrown out, but his daughter's kind of embarrassed by it because it looks like he's like rummaging through dumpsters of like food and actual garbage. And he's not. He's like at industrial like dump sites and like at this factory across the street from a school where they throw out scraps and things like that, where he can get like scrap iron prices or he can make something out of it, things like that. And his daughter's just overly embarrassed, like, why do you have to do this where people can see you and, people know me and know that you're my dad and whatever. So she's just like a real, basically annoying high school student through the whole thing because she constantly rides her dad's ass about this. But in one of his scavenging things, he finds this box. It's like an octagonal music box, about yay big or whatever. And he takes it home to her and he's like, here, I found you something that I thought you might like. So she's kind of interested in it at first, but she can't get it open. And then she notices there's a lot of like Chinese writing around it. So she takes pictures of it and takes it to one of her teachers at school who happens to be Asian. And he translates a lot of it and it gives her like a basis of what it says, but then tells her that a lot of it is in older Chinese, so she would have to actually go to like a scholar who actually studied the more dead side of the language and could actually translate it better. And this one Asian kid in her school who kind of likes her says, my cousin might be able to help you with that, but it'll cost you something. And she goes, well, what would the price be? And before he can answer, of course, one of his friends jumps in and says, he'll take a titty pic. So then she doesn't really want anything to do with him, and he's kind of like, dude, what the hell? So she's kind of put off by that, but based off the translation that was on the box, it said something about 7 wishes. So she's like, yeah, right, well, if you can really grant wishes, then I wish that, the school bully girl that picks on me all the time would just rot. And basically doesn't really know what she wants done to her, just says, I wish she'd just, like, fuck off, basically. But she uses the word rot. Well, then the next day in school, it turns out that this girl picked up some type of a fungus at the spa or something that basically causes your skin to rot away. It's like a flesh-eating bacteria. And she's like going to lose like some of her toes, maybe part of her leg. It spreads to part of her face, so she's going to be deformed. And she's like, oh, hey, maybe there's something to this. So then she wishes for something else silly, like the boy that she likes would fall madly in love with her. And he kind of starts giving her the eye and smiling at her the next day in school, but he doesn't really approach her to ask her out or anything. And like one day he invites her to sit at the table with them at lunch, and everyone else kind of gets up and leaves. And he's like, oh, don't worry about them. Haters are going to hate. So then she kind of starts to realize that maybe there is something to this. So then she makes more selfish wishes. Like at one point, her uncle passes away, and I guess the family's kind of been estranged from the uncle for a while. And she's arguing with her dad, and she makes the wish that she wished her uncle just left everything to her, which turns out that he ends up doing, which it's established early on in the film that she's one of the few family members that hasn't just like written him off and still stops by and visits him every day. So the idea that he would have left her in his will is kind of like coincidental. And someone even says that at one point, like, well, maybe it's more of a coincidence than actual wishes coming true. But then she wishes for like her dad to not be so embarrassing, and because even after they've inherited all this money from the uncle and are living in this mansion now, the dad is still going out and dumpster diving. And she's like, I just wish he wouldn't be so embarrassing. So basically that kind of puts a stop to his dumpster diving. And then once she starts realizing that people are dying because she's making these wishes and actually gets the ending part of the translation translated, she's already 5 wishes in. And then her one friend is like, well, you're just a selfish bitch. If I had 7 wishes, I would have wished for like world peace and wished for a cure to cancer. And did you ever think like, instead of all the selfish wishes, that you could wish for something for your friends? Like, I want to get into this Ivy League school, and the other girl wants to do this or whatever. And she's like, do you seriously think that if I believed any of this was actually going to work at first, I wouldn't have made those wishes? She goes, I didn't think it would actually work, so I made a couple dumb wishes, and they happened to come true. And that's when the other girl was kind of like, well, maybe it's just coincidence. And then she's like, well, no, because it says that people are going to die, and people have been dying. So then, of course, the one girl's kind of like, whatever, I gotta go. And then the other friend's like, well, if that's truly the case, you need to get rid of the box. And she goes, well, I've tried and I can't get rid of it. And then the box disappears the next day. And the girl starts freaking out because now she's like addicted to it. She has to, even if she doesn't wish on it, she has to have it around to make herself feel better. And I think part of that comes from the part of the translation that says that if you give away the box, throw away the box, or lose the box, all your wishes will be undone. People will still be dead, but you'll lose everything. So when the box goes missing, she starts to panic because then they lose the house that they're living in, because it turns out her rich uncle didn't pay his taxes for 10 years, so they repossess everything to cover his back taxes. And then, like, at one point she had wished to be the most popular girl at school, which she was for a while, but now the box is missing. Bully girl kind of returns, had a couple skin grafts or whatever, so she still has scarring from the event, but that hasn't changed her from being a total bitch. So when she comes back to the school, everyone kind of turns back on the other girl. So then it's like everything's coming undone, so now she's obsessed with getting the box back to get her life back. And everyone's kind of like, well, what happens after you make your 7th wish? And they finally translate that part that says the box will claim your soul as payment for the 7 wishes. So she gets the box back, makes her last 2 wishes. One of the wishes being that she wished her mother never committed suicide. So then all of a sudden her mom's there, and she suddenly has siblings that would have existed had her mom not committed suicide. But then she finds out that her mom's whole suicide was because her mom had once possessed this box and made her 7 wishes, and that her committing suicide was the way the box claims the soul. So she decides that for her final wish, she's going to wish that none of this had ever happened. Because that's what happens in these movies when you have wishes. Your last wish is always, I wish none of this had ever happened. So basically, you're not only wishing for your mother to be dead again, but your siblings, who you now have, to be blinked back out of existence, but maybe all the other people that died will be back alive, but everything will be reset back to 0 to where you're back to nothing. So basically, that's her final wish, is that instead of saying, like, I wish you were never created, or I wish I'd never found you, or anything like that, she just says, I want to go back to the day that I found you. I want to go back to the beginning of all this. So she gets her wish, she goes back to that day, and she goes out with her father that morning to go junk picking, and finds the box and hides it, because she doesn't want anyone else to get their hands on it and end up in the same situation she was just in. So she's kind of become the guardian of the box. And I'm not going to tell you how it ends, but everything kind of comes full circle, and there is a payoff to everything. Not in her benefit, I'll say that, but there is a payoff. And it was kind of an unexpected ending. When I saw the ending, I was like, oh wow, wasn't expecting that, but okay. And it does sequel bait, and it does give the idea that this is going to happen again to somebody else. I'm not going to go into details about how it happens because I don't want to spoil it too much if you might actually want to watch the movie. But overall, like I said, it's just kind of a film. It's another one of these, I found a magic lamp and, for me to get what I want, bad things happen to other people. And I'm going to end the movie by saying I wish this had never happened. And that's kind of the way the movie plays out. It's, again, kind of boring, kind of uneventful, kind of teenage girl drama bull crap. Although based on the girls that were in the theater when I watched it, they didn't find it that entertaining either because they kind of talked through the whole movie and were like BSing about everything that happened in the movie, like how it was all crap and that wouldn't actually happen, or what girl acts like this, or things like that. And it's like, okay, so obviously it's not appealing to its audience either. But regardless, if you're interested in watching it, if it sounds like something that might appeal to you, I don't want to spoil the ending because, like I said, the ending was probably the best part. It's something I wasn't expecting. I sat through all the other crap like, this is just whatever. And then when the ending happened, I was like, oh wow, I wasn't expecting that, but okay. So that's kind of the best part of the movie, so I don't want to spoil that for anyone that might actually want to watch it. But overall, just another unappealing, uneventful film. So what would I give it as far as a star rating? Probably another 2.5, maybe a 3, but I'm kind of pushing more 2.5. I was going to say a 3 just because, like I said, the ending was a little unexpected, but then it heavily sequel baits, and I just don't think that ending that it had was enough to bump it back up from a 2.5. But overall, it is just a middle-of-the-road film. Nothing really eventful in it. So yeah, it gets a 2.5. Not much else to say about it other than that. So again, as always, thank you guys for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, share the video. Links are down in the description. Click the bell up there in the corner. Make sure you get notifications every time I post new content. And until next time, I'll see you after the credits.